Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to go ahead and open up the microphone with a few words of welcome from Julia's dad, Chris.
I'm going to break it. Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. All right. So, good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Whitley, the proud father of our beautiful bride this evening, Julia. And on behalf of Kelly and I and our family, I just want to thank everybody for being here to celebrate this joyous day. It's really overwhelming to see so many friends and family here, all of whom traveled some pretty good distances. We've got people from the UK, Ireland, Canada, and all over the US. Brockville. Alberta, the soon-to-be 51st state, so watch out. Yeah. And while we all came together for the wedding, we also got to experience some big excitement with a tornado, so a truly unforgettable weekend for everybody involved. It really is true as you make the rounds with everybody. This room is filled with love, and I know that Brandon and Julia feel it as well. I'd like to say a special thanks to Kelly for not only helping raise our two incredible kids, but for all the help she was to Julia in planning for today. Yeah. I'd also like to thank Brandon's parents, Jan and Kevin, for all their help as well, and for the terrific rehearsal dinner that they hosted last night. It was a wonderful time. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Julia. And you may hear this being used tonight, but she's known to family as the Rooster, or the Roo for short. We gave her that nickname as a baby because she would start making a huge fuss right before sunrise every freaking morning. And it stuck with her ever since. You know, on a serious note, though, she's always been an incredible girl that cared for others with great empathy. She always worked very hard to always do the right thing and achieve her goals. And while she was doing that, she also picked up a bit of a quick wit and a sarcastic sense of humor. And when she was a real little girl, one night at dinner, I looked across the table and said, "Julia, why do you have tears in your eyes?" And she looked up and said, "Daddy, what's the difference between the chickens we eat and the chickens that are our friends?" And I replied and said, "There isn't." So she put her head down, dug in, all the while letting the tears flow throughout the dinner. Then she asked for seconds. Just kidding. At Christmas one year, she was a little bit older. I thought it'd be kind of fun. I went out in the garage, and I used my cell phone to call the house phone and pretend to be Santa Claus. And I got her on the call, and I said, if she'd been a good girl this year, and she said, "Oh, yes, Santa, I try very hard." I said, "Well, that's wonderful. We'll make sure you get everything on your list. And what about your mother?" And she said, "Yes, Santa, she takes very good care of us." I said, "Okay, we'll get her what's on her list as well. And your brother?" A little bit of a pause. She said, "Well, Santa, he's mostly good." So I said, "That's great, Julia, we'll get him looked after. And how about your father?" "Julia, are you there?" "Yes, Santa." "How about your father?" "Santa, Dad teases." And I said, "Well, that's not good. That's not good. Maybe we just get him a lump of coal." And she goes, "Yes, Santa, I think that would be appropriate." I walked back into the house, and when she saw me, she came running across the room, jumped in my arms, and said, "Daddy, Daddy, I'm so sorry. I told Santa not to get you a gift." I asked if it was because I teased. And she said yes. So I said, "That's okay. I'll try not to do it as much." I had to go back in the garage, call back, and she said, "Santa, Dad loves us and he deserves a gift after all." Years later, back at the dinner table, Julia looked at me and said, "Dad, why do you have tears in your eyes?" And I swallowed hard, looking at my beautiful daughter, who had scoliosis and had been wearing a body brace 23 hours a day. 23 hours a day. She had also just gotten braces on her teeth and eyeglasses. And all of that in an age where girls are under so much peer pressure and stress about fitting in socially. But not one word of a complaint from her, ever. No self-pity, no feeling sorry for herself, just her positive disposition and the desire to work hard and achieve her goals. So I looked at her and responded, well, Julia, it's because you're Wonder Woman, you're my superhero, and I could not be prouder to have you as my daughter. She went on to earn her Girl Scout Gold Award, additional academic awards in middle and high school, and then at UNC as she pursued her medical degree, all while putting others before herself. Brandon, I could not be happier for her having found you, and I wish you both the best as you start your lives together. My only advice is that you both is to laugh often, listen always, and never go to bed angry. And don't tease each other too much. So, please join me in raising our glasses with a toast to a terrific young couple, Brandon and Julia.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, clap your hands for Chris. And now I would like to welcome Brandon's dad, Kevin, up to the microphone.
We're good? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin, Brandon's very proud father. Thank you all for joining us to celebrate Brandon and Julia. Your love and support means the world to our families, including the many friends and loved ones who couldn't be with us in person. I know how disappointed they are, especially to miss seeing what a stunning bride Julia is. It fills me with immense pride to see the man that Brandon has become, what he has accomplished, and how happy and complete he is with Julia. He has always given 100% to the things that matter to him. If it's something Brandon wants, he's all in. And he just doesn't jump in. He also jumps off if it's something he doesn't want. On a family vacation, horseback riding in the Rockies, he literally jumped off a galloping horse. He survived without a scratch, and the legend was born. That is a whole stash of lucky horseshoes hidden away somewhere. Our Rocky adventures and countless other family vacations are now treasured memories. We have been fortunate to create some new family vacation memories with Julia. On a trip to Aruba, she was a good sport, pretending to enjoy snorkeling. Maybe next time we'll get you a mask that fits. And she surprised us by her unleashing her competitive side playing beach soccer. When Brandon was growing up, I lost count of the early mornings we spent at the rink, or the fall evenings we spent on the football fields. I wouldn't trade a single day, and regret now how quickly those experiences have passed. But they permitted me to witness the passion, the discipline, and the grit that defines him. That same drive carried him to Ireland for medical school. It was intense, a long way from home, but Brandon threw himself into it, as we all know, and then he matched the EM at GW. Some say it was his horseshoes, but I disagree. He worked hard. When Brandon sets his mind to something, there's no stopping him. He has always known what he wants, and he doesn't ask or wait for permission to go after it. Ever since he was small, I've admired how he's challenged expectations, pushed limits, and stood up for himself. So, Julia, when we first heard about you, this amazing woman from North Carolina, who also loved the Leafs, We knew you didn't stand a chance. Brandon spent 4 years in Ireland, but it was in D.C. where he met a gorgeous redhead that captured his heart. Julia, in you, Brandon found a true life partner, someone supportive, strong, and kind. You balance him out in all the right ways. You brought such warmth and joy into his life and into ours. We are also grateful for the warmth and inclusion shown to Brandon by your family. Brandon, I've seen you give your all to sports, to school, to your career, and now I see you giving your all to Julia. And that's what matters most. Maybe your lucky horseshoes played a role in finding love with Julia. Maybe it was fate. Or maybe it was your persistence, or a combination of all three. What matters is that you found each other. It has been said that you shouldn't marry the person you can live with. You should marry the person you can't live without. And I truly believe you have done just that. I am thrilled to welcome Julia into her family. Please join me in a toast to the beautiful bride and groom. I forgot my glass.
Everybody, let's have a huge round of applause for Kevin. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that everybody enjoyed their meals tonight. Right now, we're going to go ahead and welcome some of our other guests up to the microphone to say some words on behalf of our guests of honor. So coming up is Julia's maid of honor, Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. I'll first kind of talk about how Julia, Brandon, and I know each other. I met both Julia and Brandon while we were all in residency at GW, and we've known each other for about 6 years now. Julia and I were both OBGYN residents together, and I also got the opportunity to work with Brandon in the ICU when I was on my ICU rotation. Apparently, they need vagina doctors in the ICU as well. In residency, you end up spending about 80 hours a week at work, so the people that you work with not only become your best friends, but they also become like your family. We completed our residency training during the height of COVID when, due to travel restrictions, we also weren't allowed to travel out of state to visit our own families, which was very hard. Dealing with extreme sleep deprivation, life and death situations, learning to perform surgeries, navigating a very complex health system, and going through a global pandemic, I really wouldn't have made it through residency without the two of you. I'll first talk about my stories with Brandon. I remember the very first day that I met Brandon. It was when I was on my ICU rotation. Being an OBGYN in the ICU, when you don't know what you're doing, I definitely felt like a fish out of water for the time that I spent there, especially being in a specialty where we don't deal with men. I had no idea how to manage a variety of issues, including how to put tubes anywhere above the belt. And I was asked to go place an NG tube on a patient, which isn't that hard. Brandon probably thought I was a total idiot. But I was too scared to tell anybody that I didn't know how to do it, so I had Brandon come with me, and in his little Figs joggers and his confident self, he rolled up there to show me how it was done. I also remember talking to Julia about me meeting Brandon, and they weren't officially dating yet, but they had started to hang out, and I thought of Brandon as the type of person that you meet right away, and you're like, oh, I like this person so much that I would want them to be with my best friend. So when Julia told me that they were both from Canada, they had gone to a hockey game together, they were starting to talk, I was very excited. I tend to be a little bit verbose and say too much too soon. So I kept trying to feel Brandon out and subtly mention Julia to see his expression, and he always had like this grin on his face. And when they finally made it official, I was very, very excited. Some of my favorite things about Brandon are he's outgoing, smart, funny, unique, and he never fails to be himself. And I think that's something that I really appreciate about him. He also is able to put himself out there and create connections very quickly. Brandon and I became quick friends from the ICU within our time there, but he also became friends with my husband, Jonathan, who is definitely more introverted than Brandon. I still remember a time when Julia and Brandon were taking step 3, which is a board exam that we all have to take throughout residency. And the testing center was very close to our house. And I was post-call, so I was asleep. And I heard his he has a very distinct voice. And I heard this goofy voice in our apartment, and he hadn't really spent much time with my husband yet. And I was like, this can't be Brandon. This really can't be Brandon. Julia was still in the testing center finishing her test, and I rolled out in my pimple cream, no bra, a oversized t-shirt, and my retainers to find Brandon in our apartment. And he had somehow found my husband's phone number and texted and invited himself over, and they became very good friends very quickly, which I think that meant a lot to Jonathan, because I don't know if Jonathan would have put himself out there in the same way you did. But I think that's what made y'all friends, and something that I very much appreciate about you. Another fond memory I have of Brandon is he's from Canada, and he would go to the grocery store and find the sugariest cereals that were absurd that I guess people in other countries would be confused about. Why do we need a Frosty from Wendy's in cereal form? And he found all of these things about America to be very unique, and I'm a junk food eater, which is why I failed my diabetes testing in pregnancy. But he shares a love of sugary cereals with me, and I would always chuckle when he would send me texts with the newest one. Now I will move on to Julia. Julia and I also became instant friends. At the beginning of residency, our program required us to ride on a yellow school bus, like we were in middle school, to drive 2 hours in rush hour DC traffic to a hospital that we were never going to see patients at or rotate at. The whole situation was a bit confusing, but I thankfully got to sit with Julia on the bus, and she was somebody that I instantly connected with, and I knew that we were going to become best friends. Okay. I kind of went off my speech. I think I'm just going to actually wing it from here because, yes. Julia was my best friend all throughout residency, somebody that I truly admire. And I think one of the things that I admire most about her is she is the most selfless person I think I've ever met. Even in planning the bachelorette party, it wasn't about her. It was about everybody else. And as you heard earlier, Julia has scoliosis, which I knew. However, we had been ice skating together before, and she fell on the ice, picked herself back up. And so I thought that it would be okay to plan the bachelorette party in the mountains and go snow tubing. And Julia was like, this sounds like a great idea. We had planned snow tubing and all these things. And then after I became pregnant, Julia was like, maybe we shouldn't go snow tubing because then you can't participate. And I was like, that's true. That's probably safe. I don't think I should be doing that pregnant. But I think it'll be really fun for you guys, and I can sit on the mountain and watch you guys snow tube. And Julia was like, well, I can't snow tube either. Okay. Why did we plan this trip to do something that I wanted to do when this is about you? But I think that just speaks to who Julia is as a person. I don't think anybody else would have agreed to do an event that they could not participate in. So that's definitely something that I admire about Julia. I think another thing that I really admire about her is she is so smart, but so humble. Every single year in residency, we take a practice board exam, and we, all 4 years of residency, take it. And Julia scored the highest on this board exam every single year, including her intern year. So she even would score higher than people that were about to graduate and become fully certified on their own. And I was always very, very impressed by that. And I remember when she first started dating Brandon, I was like, oh, did you tell Brandon? I was like, oh, he's got to know. He's with the he's with a smart lady. And she was like, absolutely not. So then I had to tell Brandon because I was like, he needs to know that you are like the cat's pajamas. But Julia is so humble. She is one of the smartest people I know, but she, remains true to herself and is humble, and I appreciate that about her. I think the other thing that I appreciate about Julia is she goes above and beyond for others. Since we finished residency, I had my first child, and Julia flew all the way from St. Louis just for my baby shower. And I really didn't expect her to come, but she went out of her way to fly all the way there. She brought a gift. She stayed for 2 or 3 extra days and spent time with me, and that meant a lot to me. And after I had the baby, she then paid even more money to fly there again and spend time with me. And I think she's the type of friend that, like, even if it's expensive or inconvenient, she goes above and beyond for the people that she cares about. And I really, really appreciate that about her. She also has, since having a kid, sent cards and baby gifts. Like, she, remembered my son Jack's birthday, and he has a little bike that she now rides on. So even when she states away, she's a constant presence in my life and somebody that I truly, truly admire. In residency, we also joke and we would call her Angel Julia. Mike over there, he worked for Pixar, and he is a fantastic artist. And in residency, he would draw a portrait photo of each person. And we used to have it hanging in our call room, and it was very high up. And anytime I had a sassy or bad thought, I would think, oh my God, Angel Julia, she's looking down on me. Because she really is the epitome of the most wholesome person I think I've ever met. And in thinking about what are my favorite qualities of Julia, I think about all of the things that I love about my mom, my grandmother, my best friends from high school, college, even now. And Julia embodies all of the aspects of all of the people that I've ever cared about in my life, all in one human form. So I'm really glad that you two found each other. I truly do love both of you, and I'm very excited for your future. Cheers to Julia and Brandon.
One more time, please go ahead and put your hands together for Lindsay. And right now we're going to go ahead and invite Brandon's best man, Sean, up to the microphone.
Hi, everyone. As a quick introduction, this is a little short for me. That's good. Yeah. Or maybe down a little more. This was kind of like Jackson at the altar today. It was very, very similar. Okay. I just wanted to start off by thanking Brandon and Julia today for letting me stand up beside you at that incredibly beautiful basilica with the candlelights and everything. That was an absolute honor in my life, so I really appreciate it. I was talking to Brandon's dad last night, and we were trying to figure out when I met Brandon, because I actually don't know. It was when but neither of us could figure out if I moved onto the street first or he lived there first, but we think it was sometime around when we were both 3 years old. Brandon, since then, has moved to Ireland, all over the U.S. I've moved about 10 minutes away from where I grew up, but somehow we've managed to stay really good friends for the past 30 years. Most of my stories that are best memories that I have with Brandon involve kind of a group of 4 friends. We all lived within about a 50-meter radius. My brother Ryan, who's over there, our friend Nick that lived across the street, and obviously myself and Brandon. We all pretty much hung out at every available opportunity that we had. Usually it would involve playing some type of sport. We'd play hockey, football, volleyball. We used to chip with golf clubs on our neighbors' lawns, usually upsetting them a lot, making divots. And usually these sports, like 9 times out of 10, would devolve into throwing like hockey sticks, golf clubs, baseballs, bats at each other, other things, and it usually ended up looking something like the Ultimate Fighting Championship or UFC by the end of it. And or it would end by our parents yelling at us to come inside for dinner. We'd usually have some kind of fight with them too, and eventually they would somehow manage to wrangle us to get back inside. Brandon, as he stands here today, or sits, I guess, you've heard a lot about him. He's incredibly intelligent, diligent, and talented emergency room doctor, and I'm obviously incredibly proud of him. But there definitely was a time, like obviously I've known him since I was 3 years old, where I would have been incredibly shocked to hear that that's where he ended up with his life. Yeah. So, decision making sometimes wasn't Brendan's best suit, but I know now it is. He can. I don't know what you call it, but sew someone up in an instant. Or I've never really seen him on the job, but I've heard he does a good job. Anyways, so an example of this, I think we were probably around 12 years old, and we were playing a game of football on a neighbor's front yard. Now, I have no idea why we were playing on a neighbor's yard and not one of ours, but that comes down to our decision making, I think, at the time as well. At some point, as it does, the football got stuck in a tree, and you just go run around looking for something that you can throw up at the football to knock it down. One of our friends went and grabbed a basketball. I went and grabbed a hockey stick. I think he knows where I'm going with this. Brandon ran across the street and grabbed a brick, of course. So, kind of an aside on this. Brandon's dad, probably the reason there's bricks all over the place, and I was talking to him about this yesterday too, is he always had some construction project on the go any time of year, all throughout the day. And I just thought about this like a couple of weeks ago when I was writing the speech. I'm like, I saw Kevin all the time during the day working on his house or doing this and that, but yet he worked at Ford on the night shift. And I'm like, when did that guy sleep? And I talked to Jan, his wife, and she's like, I don't know. And Kevin didn't have a better answer for it either. He just said, like, you just got through it and it sucked. But I'm like, that's impressive. But anyways, Brandon ran across the street, got a brick from his parents' house, came running back to the tree with the football, and 12-year-old Brandon at the time takes the pretty heavy brick, manages to throw it about like 4 feet in the air or something, like out of the probably 20 needed to hit the football, so absolutely not even close. Deflects off kind of a lower limb on the tree, flies out over the road and right through the back windshield of my neighbor's, the back of their car. Yeah, so it lands in the back, right through the back windshield, lands inside the trunk. So everyone just kind of looks at each other, and obviously we took zero responsibility for what had happened. Like we didn't go up and like knock on the door and say, "Oh, we're sorry about your car." Like we just ran to our houses, like completely fled the scene. However, when something went wrong on our street, there was like a very limited pool of suspects. So neighbor just like went and knocked on my door, went and knocked on the Chaffee's door. I ratted Brandon out, and that was kind of end that. I don't. He's funny. I don't think he knew that. Yeah, I don't know if you had to pay for the windshield or anything, or forced into like manual labor, but he did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 He'll fill you in on the rest of the details. Anyways, as Brandon got older, obviously our interests changed, and once in a while, and somewhat frequently for whatever reason, Brandon would come to me and ask for advice on girls. I'm not sure why he would come to me in particular, but it happened from time to time. I remember one particular story where he told me that he was in a fight with his girlfriend because he told her that her face reminded him of Yoda from Star Wars. For some reason, that relationship didn't work out. I'm not. Anyways, things with Julia, however, were drastically different. Brandon never once came to me for any advice at all related to this relationship. And I can only think of two possible reasons for that. One, it could be that Brandon's decision-making abilities have improved drastically since his brick-throwing days, and he's learned that I'm probably the absolute worst person to come to for advice about women. Or he's realized that he found something incredibly special that he is so certain of that he's never had to second-guess it at all. And I like to think it's the latter. As kind of Lindsay alluded to, anytime Brandon brings up Julia, you can't wipe the smile off his face. It's always the same kind of a smirk or smile, whatever it is, but you could tell how incredibly happy he is. Brandon introduced Julia to me at his sister's Brienne's wedding a couple years ago, and I could just tell how incredibly excited and meaningful it was to him to introduce her to me, and I obviously knew that this was an incredibly special person to him, and thank you for doing that. Julia, I just want to say thank you so much for making my friend incredibly happy. I think this is obviously the happiest I've ever seen him in his life, and I really want to thank you for that. You've made him an incredibly happy man, and I really wish you guys the best on your life going forward. And Brandon, I love you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, please put your hands together for Sean.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We just wanted to extend a big thank you from the both of us. We know it's been, challenging crossing borders, crossing oceans, and surviving what's known now as the NATO, I suppose, To our parents, Chris and Kelly, and my parents, Jan and Kevin, thank you so much for supporting us. We've really appreciated your love over the last few years and, just being with us. We really appreciate everything. Thank you so much for everyone who's traveled here. Again, I know it's been very difficult, but we really appreciate everyone who's been here celebrating with us. And thank you for everyone here celebrating with us. And we're just really happy to have y'all here.